Look, I have a lot of friends that are millionaires, doing millions a month. I've made millions myself. And if you want to become way more rich, and to be fair, if you just want to become way more successful in any area, if you want to attract better women, if you want to be in a better circle, if you want to be in a better house, if you want to make more money, you got to develop the quality of being unfucking reasonable on the world's worst whiteboard ever. And the reason I say this is because one thing that I see that all these successful people in whatever area it may be, right? Whether it's sports, whether it's business, money, these friends of mine, or whether it's people that are just crushing it socially, having the best social lives, are the best with women, are the best in their social circles, whatever. They're all unfucking reasonable. And the reason for that is that the people who are not crushing it, they're very reasonable people, right? They're just people that look at their situation, look at their current skills, look at their value, look at like, okay, what can I do right now? Who am I right now? What have I achieved in the past? They're very reasonable. They're very logical people in that sense, right? And they look at their achievements and stuff like that, and they look at logically what value do I have to the marketplace, what skills do I have for the business, that kind of stuff. And like that is going to determine what I can get paid, right? That is going to determine how big I think or how small I think, rather, right? That's going to determine what I am going to allow myself to be able to do, because you got to understand that we all have, right, a certain self-image that lives in our subconscious mind, right? So we have an image of ourselves that lives right here in our subconscious mind. And that image, right, that self-image, that self-perception, that identity essentially dictates what we allow ourselves to do, what we allow ourselves to have, and who we allow ourselves to be. And it works and it functions like the same way that a thermostat would, right? A thermostat in your house functions in a certain way where if your house, it's pretty goddamn hot in this house right now, okay, in Colombia, and if it gets above a certain point, then the thermostat is going to kick in, right, and it's going to cool it down. If it gets below a certain point, first it's going to kick in and it's going to turn the heaters on. Now, I don't have any fucking heaters in this house because I'm in goddamn Medellin, Colombia right now, and it's pretty fucking hot outside. Okay, but that's besides the point. You get that, your internal self-image, your internal identity is going to dictate that. And a lot of people, they go with a very reasonable self-image. They go with a very reasonable identity that gives them reasonable thoughts, reasonable actions, and a reasonable fucking life. But if you're on this channel, then most likely you want an unreasonable life. You want unreasonable amounts of money in your bank account. You want an unreasonable career. You want an unreasonable girlfriend. You want an unreasonable friend circle. You want an unreasonable house, right? Because why the fuck would you want a reasonable life? And so if you want to make more money, you have to get unreasonable. And so if you're thinking, I'll give you some practical examples of what I really mean here. If you're, thinking about getting into a certain career or starting a certain business or whatever, right? And you're thinking right now, well, for example, you want to get into sales, right? I don't have any sales experience. I don't know how to do this. You're going to set a very reasonable goal. You're going to probably go for a very low tier role, right? And you're probably not going to think big because you don't have that reference. What an unreasonable person would do is say listen, I know that I can master fucking anything. I have won in different areas of my life. Maybe you've been a boxer in the past. Maybe you've done other shit that was difficult that you've overcome in the past. So you know that you can do this, and you're going to be unreasonable, and you're going to set a big or bodacious fucking goal of getting into sales. And by the way, if you want to get into sales and you want to see the best opportunity that you get into to make money online in digital sales, where you can literally get to 10 to 50K a month, right, in the next 3 to 6 months. That's not an over exaggeration. I'll show you examples of people who've done it. Click the link below, and that's a field that you can go into with zero experience, but you need a little bit of unreasonableness. Okay, it's not an industry where it's going to be the easiest, most kickback kind of thing. You're going to hustle, right? But if you're ready to do that, it's going to be one of the best industries for you, if not the best industry for you to get into. So click the link in the description for a full free training on that. But with that being said, if you go into that with unreasonableness, then you're going to just do things that are going to allow you to get to that life. Like, I'll give you an example. When I was 18, right, I was in high school, and I'm 26 right now. So that's almost 10 years ago. And the thing is that back then, it wasn't as big of a space. It wasn't as known that you could make money online. It wasn't as many people doing it. It wasn't as popular. It was very strange to do it. But once I saw I could do this, I literally just dropped out of high school, and I actually had a sales job at the time, right? But I went into doing my own business at the time, because the industry that I'm telling you about right now wasn't really active yet, or at least I didn't know about it yet. And I literally just went to do that. And I started making 4K a month within a couple months, profit, okay? I moved out of my country. I moved to Bali first. And then I started making, within those next 6 months, I literally got up to, at the end of that year, it was 2018 when I was 18. At the end of that year, in December and January, I made like 25K a month in profit. And I remember that I even had a coach, okay, when I first started. And I told this coach I wanted to make like 30K a month by the end of the year. Now, I didn't hit 30K a month, but I did hit I think actually exactly it was like 27K a month. And I sent him a screenshot of that, okay? And I said, almost hit it, right? But it was good enough for me. And so anyways, all that came about because I was being unreasonable, because I had unreasonable expectations, unreasonable goals, etc. Now, to make this even more clear to you, this is like, you have to understand, you can only really achieve what's within your mental reality. What is normal to you is what you're going to be able to achieve. Now, obviously, when you're just starting out, right, what's normal to you is not necessarily going to be $1 billion, right? But you can think big and you can get there faster step by step. And what I have seen is like people that achieve great things, they just think bigger. And you know what it is? The crazy thing is that it's free to think bigger. Okay? It's absolutely free. Like you have to believe something anyways. You have to feel like some way anyways, right? So why don't you just feel fucking unstoppable? Why don't you just choose to believe that you're the greatest ever? Why don't you choose to come from the identity and the self-image that you can do anything, right? Because that's going to get you those results. And so you got to understand that like this might sound very logical, okay? It might sound like pretty fucking simple, but at the same time, if you really reflect on yourself and with other people, how many people do you truly know that actually consciously choose the belief system to come from? Okay, I call this your mental stance. If you want to achieve great things, then you have to come from the right mental stance, which means your self-perception, your self-image, your identity. And the way to do that is to think, okay, what's actually in my mind right now, right? Think like, okay, what's all the shit that's in my mind right now, right here, yeah? And is that workable for the result that I want? So essentially think like, okay, I'm at point A right now, and I want to get to point B, okay? Who would I be? Who would I be, right? If I was already at point B, and then bring that person to the present. So really actually dive into this, okay? Actually think of this. What characteristics, what beliefs, what traits, what habits would I have if I was already making 100K a month? Or if I was already making 50K a month, whatever it is, right? In this digital sales opportunity, whatever it may be. And again, if you want the step-by-step of the external, right, steps to get there, like the actual strategy in the external, click the link in the description. I'll take you through that because we need some slides for that. I need to show you some stats for that, all of that stuff. But here I'm showing you the internal, right? And if you combine this internal in this video and then go to the link in the description and combine that with the external steps, you're going to be able to get there. Because only the external or only the internal won't get you there. There's a lot of people that only talk about external, and there's a lot of people that only talk about internal. No, it's both, okay? You need to be unreasonable. So with that, right, it ties into every area of your life. Like, even if you're going into boxing, for example, You could be like, okay, I need like 5 years to become a good boxer, to be a competition level boxer, this and that. Or you could just step into that boxing gym from day fucking one. And you're obviously not going to have the external skills to match up to this, right? But if you enter that with the mental stance of I am the best boxer ever, right? And obviously you know consciously, right, that you're not yet that, but you're just stepping into it from that mental position, right? You're stepping into the boxing ring from the mental position, like, I know what I'm fucking doing, right? I am going to be the best boxer. I am that, right? I have those skills. Then you're just going to learn it way, way quicker because you're coming from a different identity, right? You're coming from an identity that's workable for getting the best results in that area. Just like if you're going into any social situation or you want to meet a girl, right? Whatever. If you enter that situation from like, okay, I'm here, right? I'm right now here. And you enter that situation from there, right? What's going to happen? You're going to communicate less value, right? Because you have less value to yourself. But if you think, I am literally the best guy ever. Now, you may not have all the external things that would measure up to that, just like in the boxing example. But you are just entering from that frame, right? Because you know where you're going and you have certainty that you're going to get there. You're going to become a multi-millionaire. You're going to become the best, most fit guy, whatever it may be. You already are the most confident guy because you're bringing that to the present, right? All those things, you're stepping into it from the perception that you're already the best in the world. And that's going to get you those results. Whereas a lot of people, they do it the other way around, right? They're here right now. And then they try to get these things to then make them feel like they are this as a person, right? But what you want to do is flip that on its head and actually start right here and use these feelings to get these things. So you use the feelings to get the things instead of trying to get those things from a place of lack and using that to make yourself feel better, right? To make yourself feel like the man. So that's all where this unreasonableness comes from. And if you use this quality of being unreasonable, not looking at like, oh, logically, what's okay for me to think, what's okay for me to feel, what's an okay goal to have, what's an okay level to think of, but actually going deeper and just being unreasonable. Stopping to try to justify everything with logic, right? Stopping to put limits on yourself, being reasonable, listening to people that are reasonable of what you could do and what you couldn't do, etc. And just stepping into the identity of that person who already is it and who can do anything, because that's unreasonable and it's going to allow you to do unreasonable things. With that come those unreasonable actions, okay? More work. And one thing I'll tell you about doing more work, right? You might be like, okay, I want to just, have this passive income and all that kind of crap that all these people talk about. But what you'll find is that actually, if you tap in and you start absolutely working super hard, super long hours, you get into a certain momentum, you get into a certain flow that it actually gets easy to do that. It becomes easy and it becomes fun to do that because that's all you want to do. You're in that mode, right? But it's very hard if you're always going to start and stop and start and stop because you never get into that momentum. You never get into that mode of where you're just grinding and you're just locked in and you're just tuning away. And once your workday is finished, you just go to bed. Once you're truly in the zone, once you're truly in momentum, you're going to go to bed just because you have to sleep, right? To be able to recharge and go back at it the next day. But you don't actually want to stop because you're in this flow, right? And that's the place that you want to get into for unreasonable results, an unreasonable life, and being an unreasonable person. So once again, if you want to have the full blueprint to handle your financial situation, go to the link in the description and use this mentality of unreasonableness to actually tap in and do the work and be the greatest person that you can be without even having the results yet. Because that's going to speed up your process like a motherfucker. And once again, this is not just from my experience, but this is what I see all the guys all my friends that are doing millions and millions a month, that are literally doing 10 to 20 million a month. They're unreasonable. They don't look at like, oh, what can happen, or in this industry, what has happened, right? Obviously, you can have some measuring stick of like, okay, what's something that's possible, but then looking at beyond that, like what can more be done, right? What is possible if I look beyond that, not just going off of the rules that are already established. Okay? So start getting into that winner effect. Be unreasonable with your life. Be unreasonable with your work. Be unreasonable with your confidence. Okay? Walk into rooms having a level of confidence that's unreasonable, that people just think like he shouldn't have that. He doesn't have the external measurements to have that level of confidence. But that's going to get you everything you want. So, with that being said, I hope that helped. And be unreasonable.